Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, October 6th, 2024. And I just wanted to pop on, let everyone know that I'm still alive and well after forgetting that yesterday was my wedding anniversary. Um, yeah, I lived through that, so everything is fine. And to be honest with you, the only thing that saved my butt was that the wife had also forgotten. So she really couldn't get too mad at me. Uh, Other than that, yeah, I just wanted to let you know everything's fine. And right now, yeah, I'm having my second cup of coffee. And normally, if I don't do a live stream, um, well, if I do a live stream on Sunday, I usually call my sister on Saturday. Good morning, Philip, and yak at her. Or if I do a live stream on Saturday, I usually call my sister on Sunday and yak at her for a little bit. But she's not available today, and I'm having my second cup of coffee, so way too much energy. I can't keep my mouth shut. And so I figured I'd get on here for two reasons: to let everyone know I survived forgetting that yesterday was my wedding anniversary, and two, yeah, I just can't shut up. And if I'm going to talk to myself, I may as well record it and just babble. Um, Third, I'm still working on the transmission today. Today I'm going to record some videos about the difference between the valve bodies on a Dodge 727 A518 46RH transmission, the difference between the valve bodies with the transmission that has a lockup torque converter and a non-lockup torque converter. There are differences in the valve body itself. And so we're going to go through that because I have both of them sitting right next to each other. And honestly, I have to steal parts from one to the other, or I should say remove parts or steal. Anyway, I have to modify between the two valve bodies. I got to modify one good one that will work with my non-lockup transmission or torque converter. I can't just throw the lockup valve body, lockup torque converter valve body in my transmission and call it good. You would think since you're not using the circuit, it wouldn't matter, but from the little bit of research and information that's out there, it would cause problems. That's what I've heard, and it's easy enough to modify a lockup valve body to be used with a non-lockup torque converter. It's there's only one part that I know of right now, and I'll get into it because I'll be learning as I go, and that is the separator plate between the uh, lower valve body part. The valve body comes apart in three pieces. And oh, and trust me, I'll have my notes so I can call everything by its proper name. And we'll delve into that today. Well, at least I'll make the video today, edit it, and so it should be up either tonight or tomorrow. I might wait till tomorrow so it goes just like your paycheck. YouTube has gives you a recap of what you do every week, and it runs Sunday to Sunday. So if I upload it today, it'll count for this week or last week's uploads and everything. If I wait till tomorrow, it'll go on next week's. Overall, it don't matter a whole lot. I just like seeing that I did something every week. After going through a bunch of weeks and not doing anything, I like to at least have one up every week. That's just me. Well, you still working on breakfast, Philip? That's fine, buddy. Just like yesterday, go ahead, make your breakfast, sit down, eat, enjoy. I'll just babble here for a little bit. I don't know how long I'll end up being on, but if you're still here with me by 11:30, please remind me that I have to get off my butt and actually go do something. And you might think I'm kidding, but Philip, you know me, that might just happen. You never know. But anyway, yesterday I ran into a little problem. I'm going to talk about the transmission for a little bit because that's what's on my mind. And as much as I'm procrastinating, I do want to psych myself up to get off my butt and go do something with it. I was all set yesterday to put everything together except for the valve body, and that's the valve body. The last two things you can put in on the transmission is the valve body and then the torque converter, and then it's ready to go in the vehicle. But okay. Yeah, Eastern Standard Time. I'm in Virginia, so right now I'm showing 9:41 a.m. or 0941 hours, whichever way you want to look at it. But yeah, like I said, I was ready to put that transmission all together, minus the valve body and of course the torque converter. And let's see, the third piece I put in was the new first reverse drum that I'd gotten. And although it's almost the exact same as the old one, this one is designed to have a thrust washer. My old one, for whatever reason, was not machined for the thrust washer. So I don't know if the center part hadn't been hardened, or maybe it had. I don't know. I have no idea. But anyway, and I have seen a couple of videos with the same type of transmission I have, a 92 type. Actually, it was out of a 91. Same reverse drum, did not have a thrust washer, but I've also seen a whole bunch more that have. And the only thing I can think, and by looking at the two parts, my new one has an indent. It's been machined to have something go in it. But it's got about a 1/16 of an inch indent. That's enough for a thrust washer to fit and for the C-clip or snap ring to go on and hold everything together. Without that thrust washer, yeah, I have movement. I have a lot of movement compared to the old drum. So I ordered a thrust washer for it. It should be here Tuesday or Wednesday, somewhere around there. And the thrust washer itself was a little bit over $4. And it's costing me $20 to have it shipped because I cannot find it anywhere local. Nobody even knows what the hell I'm talking about. And this is such an odd transmission, trying to get into specifics and not knowing exactly how to explain it to somebody. It's hard for me to get it. So I'm stuck with getting a $4.50 part for $25. And that puts, getting the rest of this transmission together, that puts it on hold for a little bit. With that being said, not a big deal. Not a big deal because I'm still waiting on the new torque converter. Yeah, I already had a new torque converter, but that thing is so full. That whole transmission was just so full of junk from that reverse band being tore up and the reverse drum being scored and tore up that I don't have any way to make sure that I clean everything out of it, and I don't want to end up with the same situation. So that's basically another $225 that I'm going to eat. I'm going to keep it because they were only going to give me a $25 core charge anyway, so I may as well keep the damn thing. And maybe in the future, I will run into somebody or one of you guys, somebody around here. I'll also mention it on my regular videos. Maybe somebody can use the damn thing. And in the No Name National community there, You know, if it's usable for somebody, yeah, I have no problem. With this caveat, you guys are going to have to pay shipping for it. I'm sick and tired of paying shipping. And I'm also on a little bit of a budget for right now, probably till after the first of the year. And, torque converters are not exactly light. It's probably a little bit more than $20 to ship the damn thing. But you can have it for just the cost of shipping and handling, whatever it costs. And I don't know if a $30 torque converter that's, needs to be cleaned out, maybe even needs to be taken apart, is worth it to anyone. I can't do anything with it. But so anyway, today the plan is to work on those on that valve body, get the one all set up for my transmission, and video the differences and all the intricacies of it. I still have about 5 hours of video that I never did edit down when I first took the valve body apart and cleaned it up and checked it out and everything. From the original build 4 months ago now. And so what I'm going to do is I've been looking at them. I'm going to start over, and this should give you the same information plus, and I'll try and do a little bit better job because I'm not in a rush. I'm not doing the valve body while the rest of the transmission is waiting on it, and I'm trying to get it in the truck. Like I said, there ain't jack I can do with that transmission till I get the thrust washer and the torque converter. And that won't be until next week, so I'm going to take my time. And doesn't mean the videos are going to be professional or anything, but I'll take my time and do a little bit better. In other words, I'll spend a little bit more time on the videography instead of just going, all right, this is what I'm doing. All right, guys, it's irritating, so I'm going to turn the camera off and bring you back. I'm going to avoid that. Besides, I've already taken the damn thing apart 3 times, so I kind of have an idea of what I'm doing now. Yeah, shipping is ridiculous. Yeah. Oh, I didn't even think about that, Philip. I'm so sorry, man. Yeah, I'm sorry. But hey, thank you for that. Eventually, I will get that thing together. Matter of fact, I will make that the priority once I get the transmission out of the shed and get all the oil cleaned up and get that mess cleaned up in the shed where I can walk around and get rid of all the rags, basically clean up the shed and turn it back into my wood shop instead of the automotive shop. And I know it won't take much to put that together. It's little things, but that'll also be a nice little content for another video. Even if it's one of the new shorts, 3-minute long shorts that YouTube's going to allow you to do the 15th. I'm kind of looking forward to that because a lot of my shorts, I always feel rushed when I'm doing them. And not that I want a 3-minute short, that's a little bit too long for me, but about 1.5 minutes, a minute and 45 seconds, something like that is about a good length for me. In case y'all haven't caught on, sometimes I can be a little bit long-winded. Matter of fact, a couple of the recent shorts that I put up, both with the cast iron and about the transmission, they end abruptly. Matter of fact, one even ends as I'm trying to tell you all to have a good day. All you hear is, well, y'all, and it stops just right there. So, a couple extra seconds would have been nice, and I didn't feel like redubbing it, so I just went with it. Sent it. And speaking of shorts, Philip, and videos and everything, have you gave any more thought about, making a few videos or a few shorts and everything with some of the stuff that you want to get rid of. Um, like I said, if you have the option between throwing it away or giving it to somebody, that might, somebody might be willing to say, hey, instead of throwing it away, I'll take it and I'll pay for shipping. That, just the way my mind works, that would make me feel a little bit better than just throwing it out. But, and like I said, you never know, put out a price, a range, of what you want, what you have, what they're getting, see if you get any bites. But anyway, yeah, weather here in Virginia, just like yesterday morning, it's a little bit overcast. It's cooler, which I enjoy. I like it. I like the cool weather. Alrighty. Good morning, Philip.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah,
It's going, my friend.
to answer your question, here was my thought because this is something I've been doing. Is that there's a local radio station that every morning, Monday through Friday, they do a thing they call the world famous trading post,
Oh, okay.
uh, and it's a 10-minute long segment of their show where they do they advertise things for sale, uh,
Yep.
lost found pets, community events, that kind of thing, and anybody can advertise stuff for sale. And that's one of the things I had been doing, trying to
Okay.
focus more on this local area. If you remember
Right.
yesterday, we was talking, perhaps using Facebook or some other local thing.
Yep.
Uh, that that's another option too. I just try to avoid Facebook is all. But yeah, the local radio station, you'd be surprised how well that works.
Oh, I'm
I've
sure. Yeah.
advertised stuff on and have sold a lot of stuff, so that's one option that I'm using. But yeah, I don't uh, exclude the idea of maybe shooting a video of things that I have that I want to get rid of. But I just I don't know. I just don't see how that's going to be able to come together in the time frame that I need to have it done.
Oh, I gotcha.
So
I gotcha.
just to answer your question.
No, I understand. I understand. It's again, that's just kind of an idea of along the lines of,
Yeah.
taking spaghetti, throwing it against the wall and seeing what sticks, you know?
Right. Yeah. Well,
Hail
I
Mary.
appreciate your input. You know, I mean, I do appreciate your input. You're helping me to think of it any ways possible, which is exactly where I'm at right now. I've got to think of every and any way possible, because
Oh,
once again, like I said, I hate to throw out any of this stuff. I know people can
yep.
use it, especially here in the deep South,
Oh, yeah.
uh,
Yep.
uh, people are very resourceful and they'll do just that, and that's kind of like what I had been doing all these many years is I just was doing it as a novel effect to try to, you know, uh, immerse myself in the culture of repurposing stuff and turning it into other things
Yep.
and and it's been fun and everything, but that time has passed. Now it's time to start just getting rid of a lot of stuff, light my load, and move on to the next phase of my life.
Oh, I gotcha. I
I'm
gotcha.
in that
Yeah.
transition period now from going from the life that I had been living, a married life, to now being an old man, you know, that's that got to try to make something else with the rest of his life now.
Yeah. Yeah. I know
So,
what you're saying, man. It's funny. Like I said, I'm originally from Massachusetts, and my folks are from Maine and everything. And something I've noticed, and it goes back, I'm sure you've heard this saying before, Yankee ingenuity.
Yeah.
Um, and what that means is the same thing you're talking about. Make do with what you got.
Yeah.
Do the best you can with what you got.
Yeah.
And the thing I've
Yeah.
noticed, living in Virginia, and I have a bunch of friends, they're from Kentucky, Louisiana, West Virginia, back in the mountains. The more rural you get, no matter whereabouts you are in these United States, like my dad was up in the backwoods of Maine, 32 miles this side of Canada on the west coast of Maine, where there's nothing. When he was growing up, there's nothing around.
Yeah.
Logging industry, that was about the biggest thing. Okay.
Yeah.
And yeah, they had no money and everything. When you get into areas like that, you will find people that hang on to everything.
Yeah.
Even, my God, I got a couple of extra tailgates out here. I got an old hood to a Ford and everything. The reason why I'm holding on to it is now I don't work with metal, but I have some friends that do. And my old
Yeah.
Dodge needs a few patches cut out that I know they can do and put on for me and fix it up. And it's, this is a free resource for me.
Right.
That's just a slight example,
That,
a small example. But yeah, a lot of stuff I got too. I have a lot of old tools. And I will tell you what, that old stuff, 40, 50-year-old stuff is still working and it's lasted 40, 50 years. You go out today, buy
yeah.
the same exact thing, and within 5 years, you're buying another one.
Yeah. 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 In fact, when it comes to tools, if I'm out and about and I see a yard sale or something, that's what I do. I start looking at the tools, and I look for the stuff that I'm familiar with, stuff that I know is going to be 30 and 40 years old, because that's when they made tools good, you know.
Yep.
In fact, there was I stopped at this little roadside yard sale kind of thing. Just had a few items out there, but I stopped and started checking it out, and I was talking with the guy that had this stuff for sale, and the story was that everything that he had out there for sale was not his. It belonged to a buddy of his, and he promised his widow that he would try to get the best money he could for it, this and that, you know.
Yep.
And one of the things that I bought from him was, well, I bought a toolbox that had tools in it, only a few tools, but what was in there was quality stuff. Like he had a bunch of proto tools, and in fact, the toolbox itself was a proto toolbox. Now, this is all professional grade stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I could have done more for him, but he was asking $150 just for the toolbox and the few little tools that were in it, and I paid it. You know, one,
Yep.
because it's worth it. You know, and what's the chances of you coming across a 40-year-old proto toolbox ever again?
Oh,
You know?
yeah.
You won't.
Yeah, exactly.
And secondly, knowing where the money was going, because this guy's out there he's doing this for this widow, you know, trying to get as much money as he can for the stuff. And he knew it was good quality stuff. I knew it was good quality stuff, so I didn't hesitate to
Right.
give him what he
Right.
was asking, you know. Now, I had my
paid a
wife
fair
with me at the
price.
time, and I had
Yeah, I
my
was gonna
wife
say,
with me at the time, and she thought I was being damn foolish to spend that much money, but I didn't mind.
yeah. Well, I mean,
You
you
know.
paid a fair price for good
And
tools,
yeah,
and
and
going to a
I still have the
Yep.
toolbox. What I did with the toolbox, I did take the tools out of it, and I did sell those. Uh, if you remember, I was telling you before, when I had the yard sale going on, and a bunch of guys started coming in my tool room and just started buying stuff left and right. Well, I had those proto tools out, and there was an old guy there in there looking, and he wanted to snag up everyone in proto tools, and I sold it to him. But like I
Yep.
said, I kept the toolbox. And what the toolbox has in it is all my oxyacetylene torch stuff. I keep
Okay.
my
Yeah.
hose in there, and the torch tip, and all these extra torch tips, and the cleaner, you know, tip cleaners and all that kind of stuff. Kind of keep it like a kit, you
Yep.
know. And so, and that's just it. I got so much of that stuff, and a lot of it, you know, I have to group it together and decide whether or not I'm going to keep it or not. Now, like with my torch and that, what I referred to as my torch kit, that proto toolbox, that would be lumped together with all my welding stuff, which would be grinders and
Right.
cords and beads and stingers and all that other stuff. It'd all be one big, huge group. And I'll probably hang on to it because, before I got that welder, I had been thinking, geez, if I just had a welder, I could fix this or that or whatever it
Yep.
was that I had at the time, you know. I've been working with wood. I was a good wood fabricator. I had all kinds of products that I could do that way. And in fact, I still do that. You know, I still work with wood. I work with wood and metal. And, and that's exactly what that game board was all about. It was about showing people how you can make these things just out of scrap wood. You don't need a whole lot of wood, you know,
Oh
and you
yeah.
can make these games, you know. The same with I do beach chairs, you know, out of wood. In fact, what I use is I use 5/4 decking plank, treated decking plank. Beach chairs will hold up, you know,
Oh yeah.
because they're made of wood. They won't rot on you, you know, which is an issue down here. Gosh, you know, everything stays wet and the humidity level is that anything made of wood is going to rot on you and rots too damn fast, you know.
Yeah. Well,
But
Virginia is not
that's
too
the
much
idea.
different.
Yeah, I imagine not. I'll tell you what, though, I've never experienced any humidity levels like what you see here. And especially on those 95-degree days, literally, you go to walk out the front door, you open that front door and you walk out on a porch. It's like walking into a brick wall, you know?
Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
they even refer to it as air you can wear. You know,
Yep.
it is just
Yeah.
that thick.
Oh my
And
God. Yeah.
here's the thing.
Oh, go
I,
ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that just a couple of days ago, it was humid as heck out. And I didn't spend 20 minutes outside before I walked back into the house. And I had the air conditioning going in the house. But in that 20 minutes I was out there, I was saturated with moisture just from the humidity that's in the air. When you
Yep.
walk into the house in the air conditioning, and that moisture starts evaporating off you, that makes the house feel real cool, you know?
Oh yeah.
It almost feels cold
Yep.
because
Yep. Like,
you're damp, you know?
yep. Yeah, I know the feeling. I mean, literally, and so this, you can walk outside, all right, be dry as a bone. You can take your
Yeah.
hand, go like this, and you can see the moisture coming out. It's not
Oh, yeah.
sweat. It's the moisture. You wave your hand through. Yeah, we have days like that down here in Virginia too.
Well,
I
that's
should
just
say
it. In the
up here in
early
Virginia.
morning, yeah, in the early morning, because humidity's so high, but the temperature will be cool, that you get condensation forming on just about everything,
Yep.
you know, and it stays there until, especially here on this property with all these big tall trees, where you don't get any real direct sunlight. You got to wait for the sun to get almost directly overhead before that moisture starts to evaporate a little bit. So you'll
Yep.
get that green mold because everything stays wet all the time.
Oh
You
yeah.
get that green mold growing on everything, you know.
Yep. I
Even my
guess.
porch deck here, you know, I got to pressure wash the porch deck quite frequently just to keep that green mold at bay. Otherwise, you know, if that green mold forms and it gets a little damp, that makes the porch deck slicker and snot, you know.
Oh yeah. And that reminds me too. I forgot all about this till you just mentioned it. One more thing you just reminded me, I gotta fix on my truck is my
Uh,
defrost so I can get the moisture off the window in the morning.
yeah.
Now everything blows. It's just that the going from cold to hot, the temperature valve. All right, basically it's a
Mm-hmm.
vacuum line I gotta find somewhere under the dash that turns that
It's
valve.
leaking. Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
leaking, it's just not moving. It's just not moving. And unfortunately, unlike a Ford or anything, that little valve is not outside the firewall on one of the heater hoses where you could manually turn it. It's under the
Right.
dash. And I got a steel dash
Right.
with no friggin' room. And I got to go under there and figure out what the hell is going on. But
When
yeah,
I was just going to say when I first started driving, I was driving all these 60s Oldsmobiles. And here was the thing: the reason why I was driving them is because that was shortly after that OPEC oil embargo, and gas prices skyrocketed to about $1, maybe $1.25 a
Yep.
gallon, which was considered an outrageous price at that time. So people were selling off all these big, huge, big block gas guzzling luxury cars, your Oldsmobiles, your Cadillacs, your Buicks. Guys could pick them up for $200 or $300, and that's what I was doing. But that was just it. My point that I was trying to make here is that those old cars from the 60s, everything was vacuum operated. So if you got a vacuum leak, you wouldn't have your defrosters or heat or anything, In fact, Oldsmobile actually had a valve on the engine block. There was a valve that would cut off the water flow going to your heater core.
Okay.
And it was vacuum operated. And if you had a crack in that line or something, you had no heat in your car. You couldn't get your defroster heat in the car. And I didn't know that, my dad had to teach me that one, my first Oldsmobile was a 65 Dynamic 88, and it had that in it. And my dad told me how the thing worked. He didn't go out and show me. He just told me, and I would have to go out and check it out. And sure enough, it turned out. And the point is, it was a simple fix. I just put it on a new vacuum hose, and it worked. Now, I tell you that story to tell you this, that a couple of years later, I'm working on this horse farm, and there was a girl that was hired on as extra help, and she was driving old 63 or 64 Olds 98. She got it the same way. She only had to pay a few $100s for it. And this is up in Wisconsin. And this girl would show up at work every morning, and I noticed she'd have this little scrape mark on the windshield, just big enough for her to look it through.
Yep.
And she was driving through the horse farm through this little peephole that she scraped in the windshield. And I'm like, why do you do that? Why don't you let the car warm up? And she's like, well, it would take too long. She says, the heater doesn't work. She says, eventually, once the whole car is warm enough, eventually the frost goes off the windshield. And I told her, I said, well, I think I know what the problem is. And I went out and checked it. And sure enough, that vacuum hose was all dry rotted and crap. So I went and got a new piece of hose and put it on there, got her heater working for her in her car. She just loved me for that,
Oh yeah. I'm sure.
To actually put heat in her Oldsmobile,
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Last winter, towards the end of the cold weather, is when this my heat stopped working. I guess it went back to default. It's not blowing any, not circulating any hot water through the heater core, and
right.
You could see in my truck a few times, even though it takes me 20 minutes to get to work, the inside of the truck never warmed up enough. I'd get to work, and what you would see was two handprints on the inside. You'd see where I scraped the outside, but it was starting to freeze up on the inside too because of the humidity.
Yeah.
And you'd see two handprints where I put my hand up to melt the little bit of ice that was on the inside of the windshield. And
Right.
it was like, what the hell are you doing? My wife said, why do you have handprints on the inside of your window? I said, well, in the morning, the condensation will freeze, even though I wipe it down halfway to work, it'll freeze. And I said, so I just put my hand up there to melt it. And obviously, it leaves a handprint afterwards, but yeah. Thank you for reminding me. I don't want to do that shit again this winter.
My wife would do that, and it used to drive me nuts. Only she wouldn't just put her hand up there; she'd put her hand up on the windshield and just rub it with her hand.
Yeah,
and just to get the condensation that built up on the inside, just because the humidity levels around there. And what that does is, when I would get in it to try to go somewhere, you'd have this smeared up windshield you couldn't see out of. I'd be like, how do you even drive like this? Because here's the thing. When you go to leave out of my neighborhood, there's a stretch of it only about a quarter mile long where you're driving right into a rising sun, and that puts glare on that windshield. You can't see a damn thing. You can't see where the stop sign's at to know where to stop.
Oh, I
right?
got you. See,
And
for the
yeah,
last, I was gonna say for the last 20 years, I've every morning when I go to work, and I've had to go to several different places over the last 20 years, but they've all been to the east. So when I'm leaving in the morning, I'm headed into
yeah,
the
driving in the sun.
rising sun. When I'm coming home in the
Yep.
afternoon or evening, depending on what time of year it is, I'm heading into the setting sun. Even though 95 says
Yep.
it
Same
runs
here.
north and south, right past Richmond, it runs southeast and northwest. Or I should say
Yep.
west northwest and east northeast. It runs more towards the east, you know, than it
Yep.
does north and
When I
south.
was
And
in
yep,
when I was in the Chicagoland area, I had to do that. There was uh, I had to drive east into a rising sun, and when I left, I'd drive west into a setting sun.
yep,
And it wasn't so bad in the summertime, but in the wintertime, you know, when the sun is coming up at 7 o'clock and you got to be at the shop at 7:30, you got that sun right in your eyes. And the same thing, you leave at 4:30, the sun
yep.
is setting, in the wintertime. So, and plus the road, it's cold. The roads are probably slick, probably a little snow on it or something, or always wet. It was just made for a dangerous situation.
Oh yeah,
So,
oh yeah.
yeah, it never failed. I was that kind of guy that I was I was the living, walking, breathing epitome of Murphy's law. That if it could go wrong, it will go wrong. It will go wrong with me, and it will happen at the least opportune time.
Yep.
You know, I never got a flat tire unless it was raining. You know,
Oh, I understand that. I understand that. That's for damn sure. It never fails, man.
so
But Christ. Uh speaking of windshields and moisture and everything, and I do this on purpose. See, I do most of the driving. Now, on the wife's vehicle, especially with the windshield wipers, I try to make
uh-huh.
sure she's got good windshield wipers both sides and everything.
Yeah,
On my truck, I got big windshield wipers on it. Okay, it's a long throw and everything,
yeah,
and the one on the driver's side cleans off half the damn windshield anyway, good enough for me to see. And just to irritate her, I will make sure I have brand new wiper on my side, on the driver's side, and I'll leave that ratty old one on the passenger side. It works good enough, but it leaves streaks and it'll make
yeah,
noise and
yeah,
everything. And she'll sit there and she'll
yeah.
go, "You need new wipers. When are you going to change them?" I said, "Well, I got a brand new one on my side. I can see fine." "Well, I can't see where you're going." I said, "You don't need to. Just sit there and relax. You'll be
You
fine."
know,
And
let let me tell you this. Uh, there's a company out there called 303 Products. Have you heard of them?
no, sir.
Well, they're the parent company that makes products like Staybill. Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of Staybill fuel stabilizer,
Yep,
right?
yep.
Well, they also make a product that's a vinyl protectant that you put on all your vinyl,
Okay.
and it helps protect your vinyl, and it's really amazing stuff. And they also have a belt dressing for like your uh, serpentine belts and cam
Right.
belts and stuff like that. That they claim that when you use this product on their belts, that you'll never have to replace another belt. But getting back to their vinyl treatment stuff, the reason why I bring that up is because here in Florida, the UV radiation is so intense that whether you're using your wipers or not, you have to replace them about every 6 months because the UV radiation just destroys your wiper blades.
Yep.
I mean, you'll buy a set, you'll put them on, and a month later, you're noticing that you're getting streaks already. And when you check out your wiper blade, it's because this UV radiation has already got that vinyl rubber
Yep.
rotting,
Hard.
you know?
Yep.
And, but that 303 Products, the parent company and makers of things like Staybill, they've got a product that's called a vinyl protectant. And if you put that on your wiper blades, you'll never have to replace your wiper blades again. It's really good stuff. I used to
All right.
have some of it, and the next time I actually really need it, which will be with this Pontiac, I'm going to buy more of it. This
Yeah,
Pontiac
I
is
will
still
check
up on
it out.
jack stands right now, but when I get to that point, so just that's something you might want to check into,
Yeah,
especially if you live in Florida, because like I said, you're replacing your wiper blades every 6 months down there.
yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Speaking of UV radiation and everything, and this goes back to my camper. This is this is third roof that I've put on the camper, and what I did for the first two is, basically I used the wood, and then I covered the wood with, well, I sealed it first, and then I covered it with marine grade fiberglass roll that I got from DuPont when I worked at DuPont. Really good
Right,
stuff.
right.
$40,000 roll that they were throwing away because it telescoped. And so I said, throw it in the back of my truck. Okay, it's
Yeah.
600-pound roll. I still have it, but I covered the roof with that, and I used a marine grade. Um, oh, um, anyway, it's basically the glue and the liquid, and I forgot what it's called.
Yeah, the
I'm
resin.
thank you, the resin. Yeah, I was having a brain fart, and I put that on, and that lasted about 3 years. But the weather did not get to it as far as the rain, the snow, or anything. The sun, the sun turned that stuff just so brittle, and everything had started peeling off. And of course, I got a
Huh.
leak, so I took the original roof off because it went right down to the wood. I put a new roof on. I did the same thing, only I doubled everything up on it. Okay. And I said, all right, that should help. No, it didn't. So, and that actually rotted 90% of the whole, the camper I made is a hard sided pop up. I had to replace
Right.
90% of the framing that was on that top part that raised. I had to tear out
Uh-huh.
all the old wood and put new wood in it. And for the sides, I used a PVC plastic slab sheet. Did that on the side, and for the
Right.
roof. For the roof, again, I went out and I got some more marine grade plywood, put that on,
Right.
sealed that. But this time here, I got a vinyl PVC rubber concoction membrane that's made specifically for
Yeah.
campers and to be outside in the
Yeah.
sun. It's got a high UV rating and everything, and that
Right.
glued right down on top. And so I'm gonna see how that does.
Yeah.
It seems to be doing real good. And with that being said, I had two vents. Um, you know, the rooftop vents that open up, and these had fans in
Yeah.
them and everything. I was gonna put on the
Right.
roof, but with all the friggin' trouble I've had over the 5 years with this roof, I didn't bother putting those on. I didn't cut anything into that membrane at all. I want no chance of friggin' leaks.
Right.
So I just left it. And the camper's small enough, and with the one window I got in it and the other little tiny window, and there'll be a third window I'll be putting in. That'll give me plenty of cross breeze for, weather like we got today. But I'll be honest
Yeah.
with you, most of the time I use that camper, I really need either air conditioning or a heater. So I'm not too worried about too much ventilation, you know.
Right.
Um, just cracking a window open on it gives it plenty of ventilation.
Yeah.
But yeah, that sun is brutal. That
Yeah.
sun is
Oh
brutal.
yeah. Oh yeah. Gosh. Yeah. Everything out here is just sun fades like crazy. You know. Uh, and that's just it. You take a lot of these beach businesses now. The beach will have its off season, so a lot of these beachfront businesses will close up, for the off season,
Yep.
and in the springtime, just before they're ready to open back up, they're all putting a new coat of paint on,
Oh yeah.
because the colors have faded. It only takes about a year. So every year they're putting a new coat of paint on,
You know
and
what's
a
funny?
lot of the stuff I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you know what's funny? Now I do have some videos up, and I showed what I did to my porch, what I did to my the steps on the back porch and everything, and the fence I was building, and how I took a torch, and I burned the wood so that
Yeah,
the grain and everything, all that design would come out, and
right, right.
then I put a
Remember that.
nice coat of stain over it, well, basically weatherproofing, almost like deck stain over
Right.
everything. Okay. Now the
Yeah.
deck stain is fine. The color of the wood is fine, but you know what faded? All those burn
Mm,
marks. The sun faded all
yeah.
the burn marks out of that wood. And I'm like, well, that kind of sucks because now that it's stained, I can't go back and burn it. I've tried.
Right.
I'm gonna have to wait until I need to restain it, and before I restain it, I'll burn it again. But that's gonna take another 3, 4 years before that happens.
You speaking of that stain, that's one thing that I learned because, like, I have this shed out here, and I keep my shovels, my axe, my pick, and all that kind of stuff on the outside. I got them hanging on nails, and they get full sun on them. And I
Yep.
learned that if I take like a shovel handle, and I
Yep.
take that clear coat off by sanding it down, and then put wood stain on it, and just keep reapplying wood stain, the handles last a lot longer because a wooden shovel handle will rot
Oh
in
yeah.
only 2 years down
Yep.
here. But if you put the wood stain on it, that oil helps
Yep.
preserve the wood.
Yeah,
You
because
know,
it soaks in. It's not just a covering. It soaks
yeah,
right into the grain, and so
yeah,
that
it
gives
soaks into the
that,
wood and helps protect it.
yeah. So that gives you a deeper protection.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
so
do the same thing with a lot of my wood handled stuff.
yeah,
And a few
yeah,
things I did cheat again. Uh, I came across, some nice either aluminum or tubing, basically thin tubing.
yeah.
And a lot of the handles on my rakes, my heavy rakes, some of my shovels and everything, it's all metal and those stay outside. And,
Yeah.
I got a few more pieces because it is aluminum in case I do bend them or break them or whatever. I got a few extra
That's what uh,
pieces.
that's what I did with
And
one of my
again, that's,
rakes.
yeah. Oh, the rakes especially.
I uh,
Yes.
I found that the particular rake that I had, it had a little bit larger handle. It was like a contractor grade rake. It wasn't like some weekend warrior Home Depot
Yep.
kind of thing. And but where I'm going with this is I noticed that the wood handle is just a little bit thicker, and the if you buy top rail for chain link fencing, that rake would
Yep.
fit right inside of it.
Yep. I got you. Yep.
and
Yep.
and it fits so snug. If you just give it a couple of taps, once you got it on there, now you got yourself a metal handle for your rake.
Yep.
Using the top rail of a chain link fence.
Speaking of that, here's a funny story. Um, my daughter's first car I got her was a little I think it was a 93 or a 95 Ford Escort. Okay.
Uh huh.
And my old Ford truck was down. I was having trouble with the starter. That was a story I told a while ago where I had to go and get 4 starters from a junkyard and or 5 starters from a junkyard, put them together to build one because
All right.
I'd bought 4 starters brand new from the store, not even remanufactured, that were no good in a row. But anyway, so
Yeah.
I borrowed her car one day, and it was in the wintertime. It was around January or February. And I went to where I was working overnight. I had a night run at the time going down to North Carolina. And I come back in the morning. It's about 3 o'clock in the morning. I get back, and we had a damn snowstorm. We had a good 8 inches of snow. That's a lot for Virginia. And
Yeah.
the problem is, that time in the morning, none of the plows had been out to. I mean, they had plowed the highways, but they hadn't gotten to the secondary or the tertiary roads. And
All
so
right.
I'm leaving out of the yard, which was a ways off the main road, and I'm headed home. And the snow was so high that it was over the bumper of the car. But being a front wheel drive, it's plowing its way through. And I get home, get off onto just right the street right before my street. And my street to turn on, it's a sharp left turn and just a little tiny hill. Well, the plows had been through there, but they hadn't cleared off my street. So it's, a snowbank right there. Not to
Right.
mention it's on a little bit of an incline. So I come in, I try to get through it. Nope, car won't go. I back up. It took me 4 times until I was able to plow through it. And as soon as I get halfway through it, all I hear is "Blop, blop, 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 blop." I
Pulled
pulled
the
the
muffler
exhaust
off.
off the car.
Yep.
Yep, pulled the muffler off. So I pulled into the driveway. Okay, park it. Told the old lady what was going on, and fortunately, it was on a Friday. I didn't have to work, go back to work till Monday or anything. And it turns out we had another storm right after that, and they canceled our run. So I was off till like Wednesday. But in the meantime, the car is sitting. All right, we had so much snow, you can't open the door to the car because the snow where it was sitting, the snow came up over the doors. Okay, up to about
Mhm.
maybe 6 inches above the bottom of the door. So one thing, the wife's looking at me going, "When are you going to fix the exhaust on Heather's car?" I was like, come here, look out the door." I said, "I can't even open the screen door right now because I haven't cleared off the front stoop." I said, "Can you see under the car?" "No." "How the hell do you expect me to get under it?" I said, "Not only that, it's a
Yeah.
Ford Escort. The ground clearance is this high." I said, "That means I have to
Yeah.
jack it
About
up."
4 inches. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to jack it up. I have to put jack stands under there. I said, "Do you want to crawl under that car while it's sitting on a jack with jack stands sitting on ice?" "No." I said, "Neither do I." So I said,
Mhm.
"When it warms up and it's safe to get under there, I'll fix it." This is Virginia. It only took 2 weeks. All right. And the snow was gone and we were back to 70-degree weather.
Yeah.
But to get back to my original point, now that you have the backstory, I looked at that exhaust and I didn't pull it off. What had happened was half the pipe was just rotted. You know, it was thin. You could grab it and just it would fall apart.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And I'm looking at it, and the Ford Escort does not have a big exhaust pipe on it. You know what it has? It has the
Uh,
exact same inside diameter as a chain link fence top rail. And
yeah.
I had a bunch of it sitting behind my shed. And I cut the
Yeah.
pieces off, slid them right on, and that was it. She had a new exhaust made out of the top rail of a chain link fence.
I I had well, I've had a lot of Oldsmobiles from the 60s and 70s and even into the 80s. Well, on all their V8 engines, Oldsmobile was notorious for doing this. They had what they called a crossover pipe because every Oldsmobile, except for the Olds Cutlass Hurst Olds division, every
Right.
Oldsmobile had single pipe exhaust.
Yep.
And what Oldsmobile did was on the driver's side of the engine, they would take a pipe and bring it down underneath the engine, underneath the oil pan, and back up into the other manifold on the passenger side
Yep.
and tied in. So, and these crossover pipes, because they was the lowest hanging thing, they got exposure to all the road grime and salt and crap, and those crossover pipes would rot out every dang time. And the worst
Hmm.
part about it was trying to get the nuts and off of the studs to replace the thing. Everybody had a damn replacement crossover pipe. Finding a crossover pipe for an Oldsmobile is not a problem. It was putting it on because it
Yep.
never failed. The studs would break every dang time. Then your only other option was to now remove the exhaust manifold to drill out the studs and put new studs in. And of course, you'd
And
snap off bolts
yeah, on the
holding the
head.
manifolds in,
Yep.
fixing a crossover pipe on an Oldsmobile was a major undertaking. So
Yep.
what I would do is I would just take tin cans and cut them and cut the tops and bottoms off them, put them up on there, then wrap it with aluminum tape,
Yep.
and then get some of that fiberglass tape and resin and just keep making these things,
yeah.
you know. And so long as you stayed out of the throttle, if you didn't go wide open throttle and blow a hole in it, you was
Yep.
okay, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh my
that
gosh,
was that's the one thing about them Oldsmobiles that would be just annoying as hell is every single one of them had a crossover pipe, and every single one of them they would rot, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I've done the same exact thing you're talking about. I've used aluminum beer cans. And
Mm-hmm.
back in the 80s when you could still get the good thick I'd say like almost like, a vegetable can, like green beans or
Yeah,
something like that. But
right. Well,
they
that's
used to make.
exactly what I was using. I was using them steel cans,
Yep,
you know,
exactly.
soup cans.
Yep, soup
And you
cans.
just cut the tops and bottoms off of them,
Yep,
and then take a pair of tin snips and cut it long ways, and
yep,
just clamshell around it, and then wrap it in tape, and then rewrap that in fiberglass. You know.
yep. I used to do the
Uh,
same thing. Used to do the same. And it's funny if you had the right can and everything. A lot of those would last 2 or 3 years. If you didn't,
yeah,
you'd
it lasted a
replace
couple of
it
years.
every year.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you didn't get the right stuff.
The
Um,
last Oldsmobile I had was I think it was an '86, and it had a 350. In fact, no, it was an '85, and this Oldsmobile was one of those when GM was first experimenting with putting diesel engines. They were putting them in their Oldsmobiles, their Buicks, and their Cadillacs. It was a diesel
yep,
V8 engine, and they were total failures, and everybody was yanking them out because they were just junk motors. And this Oldsmobile that I had, it was an '85 that originally had the diesel engine in it. That the guy that owned it before me, he had that diesel engine yanked out, and he had a Chevy, a '79 Oldsmobile 350 engine put in it, and it still had that crossover pipe. And I did just that for 3 or 4 years. I would scrounge and cobble together a piece of crossover pipe, and finally one day I just said, "To heck with it, I'm going to do it right." And of course, I got into all that with breaking studs and bolts and
yep,
everything else. It took me 3 days to get that thing done. And at the time, I was living in an apartment complex, so I'd have to go over to my dad's house and work out of his garage trying to do it, you know, and
yep.
just making
But
do with whatever the heck you could do, you know, to make it work.
it's like this Dodge that I have. All right, I've had it for 7. This will be going on 8 years here. 7.5 years. And right before I got it, okay, the guy that owned it, family friend, known my wife and her family forever, ever since they were kids. And basically, he sold me the truck. He'd been offered $4,500 for the truck the way it's set, and found out I needed a truck. And he said, "Well, I got $1,500 worth of tires, rims, and a lift kit on it." He said, "I need that money
Right.
back." And so he sold me the truck for $1,500. After being offered 45
Yeah.
for it. So you don't find even family members. You don't find people like that anymore. But
Right.
he knew I needed a vehicle. He knew I needed the truck. So the other thing he did too, he went through it. He gave it a tune up, changed all the oil, and
Okay.
mind
Hold
you,
on just a second. Hold on.
okay,
Just keep talking. I can still hear you. I'm just setting the phone down for a second.
okay. Well, mind you, he was in his 70s at the time, and he wanted to change the transmission filter and fluid on it because it'd been about 4 years since he'd done it. And the way that you talk about exhaust, the way this exhaust was, is single exhaust, and the cross member went right underneath the transmission oil pan and did not leave you enough room to drop the pan and pull it out because it would hang up on the filter. And instead of trying to unbolt the exhaust from the manifold, They just went under and they cut the crossover and dropped the exhaust that way so he could drop the pan. Then he welded it back on, which is fine. And he's a damn good welder.
Uh-huh.
Damn good welder. But unfortunately, he's also 70 years old. It's kind of hard for him to move around and get under there. So the tops, I always had a friggin' leak, 2 leaks on it. And
Yeah.
I kept wrapping those, so it passed inspection and everything. And
Right.
then after a while, the rest of the exhaust started rotting out a piece at a time, and I would replace it a piece at a time. So that basically that stock or aftermarket exhaust, which is supposed to have maybe 3 pieces to it, ended up having like 16 8-inch pieces, all stuffed in there from whatever I could get. And I got tired of it because it was always breaking, always leaking. And the thing's as long as the truck's, it's 25 feet long with the crossover. So now this time when I pulled the transmission out, I had to take the whole exhaust down and to get it out of my way. And I took that thing, which weighed, again, about 100 pounds, and I just junked it. And so now I know I have a couple of videos up. I just put straight dual exhaust on it that comes out before the wheels. And with 2 little, they're nice. They're Flowmaster FX series. And they're actually, even though you can see straight through them like you can a cherry bomb, they're quieter than the one muffler, which was the Flowmaster 40s series. It's quieter than that muffler was. And I've also gone from an 1 7/8 exhaust to a 2.5-inch exhaust on it too, so it does breathe a little bit better.
Right.
But yeah, it's like I said, those exhausts, some of them are just they'll drive you crazy, man.
Yeah. It was my biggest problem was always having to wrench on these old cars where everything's all rusted up. But I got so used to it. I've told you this before, but I haven't owned a car that was made in the same decade in which I owned it.
Yeah.
Everything I bought was at least 10 years old. In fact, the closest thing that I ever got was when I got that 2005 GMC truck. But I bought that in 2010, so technically it's the next decade.
Yeah, same thing.
And it was only a 5-year-old truck then, but technically it was made in the next decade. And I didn't have to do any work on that thing. That was the best damn truck, other than regular routine maintenance, give it a tune-up, put new plugs and wires in it every now and then. Any work that I had to do to it was because I messed it up. Like one time I went to flush the radiator, and I thought, well, I'll put a little pressure to this thing just to do a pressure test, just to make sure it's good. And I pumped it way too much pressure. I put about 60 PSI in it. Well, them things ain't designed to take much more than about 20 PSI before you blow them up. So I ruined the radiator in it. So I had to put a new radiator in it just because I stupidly pressurized the system to test for leaks and put way too much pressure in it. The other one was breaking the transmission. Now, that 4L60 transmission, they're gonna fail on you. And but it broke on me because I was going from reverse to drive with a cold transmission, and I'd hit the gas and there was still a lag in the transmission because it was cold. And by the time it hit drive, bam, it was like it was really hard, and things just broke and snapped in there, and that was it. But like I said, I didn't have to do a dang thing to that truck as far as repairs, except for those things that I broke on it.
Yeah, well, same thing. Same as you. I've never owned a vehicle in my life that was from the same decade that I was driving it in. And here's the thing: my old Ford, the truck I had right before this, I bought it brand new. It was an '89, but it was a leftover. I bought it in 1990. I bought it in January of 1990. It was, it was made. I think it was a mid-year. '89.
Yeah.
It sat on the dealership for two reasons. One, an older gentleman had special ordered it. Okay. And it was because he wanted a six-cylinder manual and he wanted tall gears in it. Okay. So he went through and he
Uh-huh.
ordered it. He put the down payment on and everything. And about 3 weeks before it was delivered, he had a massive coronary, passed away. Well, the dealership was kind enough, to give the widow, all right, we understand the problem. So they didn't owe any money on it, but they couldn't sell the damn thing. It just sat there because in Massachusetts, nobody wanted a six-cylinder with no air conditioning. Basically, it was a base model truck, but
Yeah.
with the six-cylinder, and it had real tall gears in it. I mean, very tall gears in it. And nobody wanted it. They all wanted the V8s because they wanted to use them for plowing and everything. Any three-quarter ton truck, they're going to put a plow
Yeah.
on it up there. So I picked it up for $7,500. And at the time, it had 300 miles on it because they were using it as a shop truck. An employee needed a vehicle to go home. It sat there
Right.
for 6 months. So I got it for $7,500. And you know what? I kept that damn truck for 27 years. That was the best vehicle I
Hmm.
ever had in my life. I kept it longer than my
Yeah.
wife, and it was older than my kids. I had it longer
Back
than my
in
wife
back
and my
in tho-
kids.
back in those days, you know, uh, all three, GM, Ford, and Chrysler, they could make a six-cylinder engine that they weren't powerhouses, but they were incredibly reliable. You
Yeah.
know,
Well,
I've had all three. I've had a GM inline six, I had a Ford inline six, and I had a Chrysler inline six, and every one of them they were incredibly reliable. I think it was can't remember if it was 66 or 67 Chevy Biscayne with the inline six, and that
hmm
thing would just run and run and run. I had a Ford with the 300
Yep.
inline, a Ford truck that had the inline 300 in it. That was just incredibly reliable. And the same with my Dodge Slant Six. I had a Dodge Dart with a Slant Six in it, and it had the one barrel carburetor on it. And even with a one barrel carburetor, you did not want to touch the gas pedal when you went to start it, because if you did, that one barrel carburetor could flood that
Oh
inline
yeah.
six cylinder engine.
Yep.
It flooded real easy. But
I
as
said
long as, but yeah, they were just ridiculously reliable, you know.
I will tell you what, that old Ford. Now, the trucks I'd had before that had the either a 360 or a 390 Ford engine in it.
Mhm.
And yeah, I noticed a difference. I really did. You could tell the difference. But that straight 306 I had in that old Ford, um, it was also multi-port fuel injection, so it was upgraded. It was a whole lot better
Right.
than the carbureted ones. Not only
Yeah.
that, but when I got this thing, it was getting 22 miles to a gallon because it had the overdrive on it. And at
Yeah.
70 miles an hour, because of the taller gears, I was only pushing 1800 RPM. Now, if I had anything in the back, any amount of weight in the back, forget about using the overdrive. Forget about it. Unless you were going downhill, then you can throw it in fifth gear. But other than that, you kept it in fourth gear. And believe it or not, I went up through the White Mountains in New Hampshire. I went through a bunch of mountains. I even had it out here in West Virginia at the Skyline Drive, and had a 2,300 pound dry weight. So once you fill it with all your camping gear and water and everything, this was a big ass camper on it. Slide in on the back. The thing weighed about 2,500 pounds, and yeah, I put heavier springs on it and everything so it would carry it. But even that six-cylinder would take it through the mountains. Yeah, I'm not going to win any races, but it would carry it through the mountains, up and down those
Yeah.
7% grades, just as well as any eight-cylinder that I had before. I mean, the torque was right there.
Yeah.
Going from point A to
Well,
point B.
that was the thing. That was
Yep.
the thing about all those six-cylinder engines, is they had real tiny bores in them, but they had real long strokes. So even though they might have had only 150 horsepower max, maybe 120,
Yep.
They'd still have 300 foot-pounds of torque in them, because they had real long rods. In fact, they were just copying the ideas of some of the diesel engines at the time. That's the
Oh, yeah.
secret to a diesel engine is them big, long strokes that they have in them,
Yep.
and the long rods to give them that torque number. And yeah, you're not going to win any races with an inline six, but I'll tell you what, you can go up some pretty steep grades towing stuff, and it's
Yeah.
like you don't even know it's there.
Yeah.
One of the
Basically,
earliest inline sixes I drove was a Ford F350 with a flatbed on the back of it, and it had dualies on it
yep.
for this landscape and tree nursery. And that truck would only go about 65 miles an hour. But I'll tell you what,
Yep.
it had, first of all, that had a dual range on it.
Yep.
And you put that thing in low, you could let out of the clutch, get out of the truck and walk faster than that truck. And that truck would idle going across the fields, and you could get out and walk faster than that thing would go. But that was just it. You could put a chain on that thing and pull tree stumps out of the ground with it,
Yeah, you want to move your house, no problem. Wrap a chain around the house and take it wherever you want to go. Just drag it down the road. Yep. That was something I noticed between my old 69 F250, and I had 4 of them, but the one I'm talking about had a 360 in it, and that 89 with the 300, it was the gearing in it too, both 4-wheel drive.
Yeah.
And with the 89, even when I put it in 4-wheel low and put it in first gear, it would idle. Of course, you had the computer and the fuel injection, so it would keep up a decent idle. It wouldn't let it stall out. But even at idle, you were at a very, very fast walk. And since I have short legs, I was almost at a jog. And that was even in, like I said, 4 low first gear. Whereas my old 69, and I was helping my uncle up in New Hampshire one time clear some land, and we had to go almost 2 miles into the woods on a rutted old pathway. I wouldn't even call it a road, and the ruts were so deep, I didn't have any power steering, and so even when I was driving in there, that steering wheel would be bouncing around because it's manual steering as the wheels were hitting the ruts and everything. So I just let go of it because it was hurting my hands. I couldn't hold it, and I would just follow the ruts in. Well, I got tired of being bounced around in the truck also. So on the way out, and we couldn't go much faster than a walk anyway. On the way out, I just threw the thing in first gear, 4 low, pulled the choke out, had a manual choke, pulled the choke out just a little bit, shut the door, grabbed a beer, and walked beside the truck as we went out the woods. And I did that 3 times because we weren't going any faster anyway. And instead of getting beat up in the truck and spilling my beer, I just got outside of it. And I was walking, me and a buddy of mine, we're just walking beside it, having the beer. We kept the beer in the back, and when we got a chance, we'd grab another one and just followed it out. We never hit the main road. It was basically from some land he was clearing to some other property he had. So we never, ever hit the main road. We're always on private property. And so we weren't too worried about it. And back in those days, the cops really didn't bother you that much anyway. They couldn't get me for a DUI because I was not operating a vehicle.
Yeah. My brother and I, we were working for this landscape and tree nursery company, and they'd send us out there out into the cornfields of central Illinois, where they'd have tree nurseries. And that's where we spent most of our days operating tractors. I would operate one with a rototiller, and this was all about trying to keep the weeds down. And my brother would operate an old McCormick Farmall cultivating tractor, And here was the thing: every now and then you get the tractor stuck, but we knew we could go get that Ford with the dualies on it, put a chain on it, and use that truck to pull these tractors out of ditches,
Oh,
and that was just it. You learned that, because you're just out in the middle of a field where you're so far away from any highway or road that and you could outrun the truck. You didn't
Oh
have to
yeah,
worry about it getting away from you. If the chain snapped, the truck started crawling away. Well, you could just walk up to it and get back inside of it.
yeah.
So, but listen, hey, I'm going to have to go ahead and get off of here and go get myself something to eat and get on with my day.
All right, buddy.
So,
Yeah, that's same here. I
I'm,
gotta do those valve bodies, and I gotta get
yeah,
some video going on that as well.
hey, listen, if you don't get that transmission put back together, I do have an idea. You go get yourself some big giant rubber bands and just twist them up like that
Yeah, I
and
got you.
connect them to that rear differential.
I got you. I got you. At this point here, I'm thinking of going and grabbing a 2 or 3 speed transmission out of a lawnmower and hooking some chains up to the rear axle.
Right,
You know?
right. Okay, well, listen, I'm going to let you go and I'll talk to you later. All right.
All right, buddy. You have a good one, man. Have a good day.
Bye now.
We'll see you. All right. Hey, Philip, it was good hearing from you, man. Always a pleasure to talk to you and everything. But yeah, it's getting close to 11 o'clock too. Yeah, I knew this would happen. God. So, anyway, guys, yeah, I just came on here to babble. I finished my coffee. Well, I got a sip left, but it's ice cold right now. And 2 drinks I don't particularly care for is a hot cup of tea and a cold cup of coffee. Never cared for them. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and hop off here. Uh, I've already yacked too much, and I'm just procrastinating too much. And if the wife is at work, and if I don't actually get something done today, considering I forgot yesterday was our anniversary, then I definitely will piss her off. So I got to get my ass in gear. Y'all take care. Have a good weekend. Be safe. And yeah, tomorrow or so, if you feel like it, check out my channel and we'll see what happens with this valve body on the on this cursed transmission. And yeah, I hate to blame the transmission. It's probably all my fault. Anyway, y'all take care. Have a good one.